Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Today's episode is going to be so fun, even if it's just for me, but I think this will benefit everyone. Our guest today is Emily. She is a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Emily, if you can tell us also where in the world you are, I know, but let's tell everybody where you're located, what you do for work, and then we'll do what you do for fun.
All right. So, hi, I'm Emily. I own Poppy Physical Therapy in Saratoga, where we specialize in pelvic floor physical therapy. So, focusing on bowel, bladder, sexual dysfunction, pregnancy, postpartum, birth prep, all of that fun stuff. I started pelvic floor therapy almost 6 years, 5.5 years ago now, due to my own pelvic floor issues after the birth of my son. So I've been doing that for 5.5 years. I've been a therapist for 14 years. So it's a nice combination of pelvic floor and also orthopedic, right? Because I always believe there's an
Yeah.
underlying orthopedic component to most pelvic floor issues. So,
Wow, we got to talk more about that.
okay.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. I'm a student in all definitions of the word when it comes to like physical therapy and pelvic floor and all this type of stuff due to my own journey. But I'm going to flag that. We're going to get to that. Tell us what decade of life you're in and what you do for fun.
I am in my 30s and fun. Fun right now is hard to find, right? Running a
Yeah.
business, I have 2 kids, 2 and 5. Gosh, I mean, what I used to do for fun was hiking, mountain biking, rock climbing. I love all of those things. And I can't wait until my kids are in a better decade of their own life to
Yeah.
where we can do that a little bit more. But right now, we go for bike rides around the neighborhood, go for walks with our dogs. That's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. The season is short, believe it or not.
I
Before
know.
we started this, we were talking about before we press go live, how the difference of like age when your kid is 2 to 3 is like a massive jump, and from 3 to 4 is a massive jump. And yeah, I got to get mine on bikes because I think that would be really fun. But I like miss that boat of where they're like not really afraid. And we had a
Mm.
balance bike, a beautiful balance bike. They both outgrew it before they mastered it. So I
Really?
need to get that figured out. But I also know someone who her 5-year-old mountain bikes. So you're
That's
almost there.
amazing.
Yeah.
I know. Got to sign them up for that because there is a class in Saratoga that we
hmm
need to
Yeah, it's
do.
with Go Kids, right?
Yeah.
She's the
Hmm.
best. Emmy is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to get my kids in that.
hmm Yeah. Well, maybe I can get mine in too. Okay, so thank you for being here, of course. So I have had my own journey after I had my kids. And the other thing I really like, a misconception I want to put at the very top of the episode for everybody is this is not a women's problem. This is not a pregnancy, postpartum, menopause problem. This is a human body problem. Women have to happen to be like they experience like extreme pressure and tension and stress on this area of the body through pregnancy,
Yes.
delivery, and recovery, as well as like menstrual cycles and menopause and all types of things. But this is an everyone problem.
Hmm.
Pelvic floor is an everyone scenario.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Men and women all have pelvic floors.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people don't even think about it until there's a problem.
Correct. We're not
Yeah.
really taught about it, right? In like
hmm
school or anything. Like we don't
Right.
learn about anything or even how many times should I pee a day, right? Like it would be so nice
Right.
if we just had some general basic education.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I mean, I didn't learn anything about this in school. And one of the things, and this is um, really interesting to me, even like the amount of my day I spend talking about the bathroom with people because
Yes.
digestion is a huge problem. Our food system
Hmm.
is a huge problem. What we're eating really impacts our digestion. Our guts have like almost never been more complicated, it feels like.
Uh-huh.
Um, and pelvic floor is a piece of that. And I think for a lot of my clients, we either get there because the route of like we have this exercise aversion that I we get below the surface and figure out that it's either because of maybe they leak a little bit when they run or jump. Maybe they have
Hmm.
avoided it for so long that they didn't even realize they were avoiding it because of an underlying pelvic floor or orthopedic issue. And then other times there's like major bathroom challenges
Mhm.
and it's all coming down to the pelvic floor. So tell us a little bit about like let's start with maybe really broad, what you think everyone should know about their pelvic floor.
So, what should everyone know about their pelvic floor? Well, first of all, right, like no leaking is normal. Like nobody should leak. You
Yeah.
shouldn't leak, no
Hmm.
laughing, coughing, sneezing. It shouldn't just be accepted that, oh, I had a baby. So, oh, I
Yeah.
leak a little when I laugh, cough, sneeze, right? Like I always compare it to pain, right? Like that's your pelvic floor's way of saying something's wrong. Just like if you had pain
Yeah.
somewhere, you wouldn't just be like, oh, it's just okay. Like I'm just having a little pain here, right? Like it is the sign that telling you that there's too much demand on the system and we need to figure out why, right?
Hmm.
And then I mean even so like even with going to the bathroom, like you shouldn't be running to the bathroom, right? You shouldn't have an urge and have to run to the bathroom. We should have ample time to get to the bathroom. We shouldn't leak on the way. Um, you know, we should pee every 2 to 4 hours or so. Um, and the bowel movement thing is crazy because right, 3 times a day to
Wow.
3 times a week is considered normal.
By
So
who?
if you fall in that range, it's normal. But I do like once a day, right? Once a day is
Hmm.
generally what we try to aim for.
Yeah. Do you operate with the belief that like the standards that conventional medicine sets, like that's a great example, 3 times a day to 3 times a week? Like, do you consider that normal? Do you go off of that?
I go off of what the person in front of me wants, right? So if
Mm.
my aim is generally once a day. But if someone
Hmm.
says, I go 3 times a week, I've done that my whole life, I'm fine with it, it's fine, then I'm not gonna like, right? Like if
Yeah.
that's
And they
what
have
they're
no
okay with,
symptoms.
yes, right? If they're
Right.
okay with that, then that's fine. Now, if they said that they did that and they were also experiencing significant urinary urgency, then I'd be like, well, we might need to figure out if constipation is actually an underlying cause for your urinary urgency, right? Like, is your constipation actually causing you, right? Because there's just not a lot of room down there. So when you are
Yeah.
really constipated, it'll push on your bladder and make you have to pee a lot. So that would be the only time, right? I would like maybe be like, well, maybe we should look into it. But it really just depends on the person in front of me and what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, this is another area. I don't think there's any areas that aren't, that really need to be like so individualized.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of providers, and I can speak, I've seen at least like four pelvic floor PTs in, not, I didn't see you. I left care by the time we met, but if I ever need anything, you'll be my person. And it was like all around like awareness, like, and that's kind of like I can awareness something to death, but like what
Hmm.
do I do about it? It was like, well, this area is weak or this area is tight or you're clenching. Okay, great, I solved that. Now what do I do about it? Like what do I, and I think I think based on our conversations, that's part of why you started your own practice. But tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the difference between knowing there's a problem, knowing what the problem is, and then getting to the actual treatment of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think awareness of your pelvic floor is such a big thing. I think it's so
Yeah.
hard to know when there's a problem and knowing awareness because we're kind of taught, especially in this country, right? Like that area, like if we don't talk about it, it's private.
Right.
And we
Right.
kind of like separate it, right? And
Hmm.
we actually know women in general actually have less awareness of their body, right? Like it's one of the reasons why we suffer heart attacks more often is because we actually don't have that internal awareness as much. And I think part of that's intentional, right? When you have a cycle all the
Hmm.
time and like if you're aware of every little thing that's happening in your body when you're pregnant or going through your period, like it's going to be a lot,
Yeah,
right? So I do
unbearable.
think that is intentional. But because of that, we have a decreased awareness of the pelvic floor. So sometimes I feel like we don't even realize when something is going wrong, right? Like, and sometimes it has to, because of that, it has to be so loud, right? The pelvic floor can get really loud in order to get you to be aware. So, like, whether it's leaking, constipation, even diarrhea or pelvic pain, pain with intercourse, right? Like back pain, hip pain, all of that can be a pelvic floor issue. And And unfortunately, by the time the pelvic floor is involved, my belief is that other things are also involved, right? Like rarely do we look at someone and be like, you have strictly just a pelvic floor issue, right? Like, because plenty of people can go through pregnancy and postpartum and not have a pelvic floor issue, right? They can be
Right.
okay. So why do some people and others don't? So generally, like my belief is the pelvic floor is one of the last things to be affected, and it has to get kind of loud in order for you to pay attention because we
Hmm.
just don't have that awareness. And then, like, usually, right, like treatment is going to be so variable depending on the person. But I look at my evaluation as like a two-step evaluation. Like, if the person is consenting, we'll do a pelvic floor exam,
Hmm.
right? So we will check the pelvic floor muscles, see what's going on with them, see if there's pain, tension, how they're functioning, right? If you can contract, relax, if you can coordinate your pelvic floor with your breath, all of that stuff. But then, right, we also have to do a full movement assessment, right? Like if you're leaking with
Hmm.
sit to stand, we're going to do a squat. If you're leaking with running, we're going to do some lunges. Your pelvic floor is involved in your balance. So let's check single leg balance. Let's see how your hips are moving, your feet, all of that stuff. And then we put the pieces together, right? So we'll see, oh, this muscle of your pelvic floor was tense, and then you had this limited hip mobility. So let's like work on the hip mobility, see what we can do with the pelvic floor, right? And kind of put the pieces together that way. So for everyone, so my answer for everything is so annoying. It's usually it depends because it's just different for every
Yeah.
person. So
Yeah.
but that is usually right. So it is like I treat a lot of feet, right? Like I do a lot of foot
Wow.
stuff because feet are so involved in the pelvic floor. Um, but yeah, we treat a lot of feet, hips, and then get the pelvic floor going too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like this is so important for everyone to hear, and so a lot of people have like we are in like provider groups and provider echo chambers sometimes, but like if your provider tells you it depends to like a very canned question, and maybe like they're not even your provider yet, or if a provider says it depends, like that's a good sign.
Yeah,
Like you should be seeking someone who's not trying to get you like a one size fits all answer.
I know.
Um,
We've
so
lost
I think I just want
nuance.
to flag that. Yeah.
We've
Hmm.
really lost nuance in this world. And like, it's all this gotcha stuff. And it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all so nuanced. And honestly, if
Hmm.
we're talking about pelvic floor, it's all an experiment, right? Like we
Hmm.
haven't, we started researching on women in the 90s. We don't have that much research, right? So we're just like trying our best and trying to put the pieces together and looking at the person in front of you and see what they need.
Yeah, yeah. I I should have asked this at the top, but like, do you define pelvic floor just as that actual literal pelvic bowl? Or do you see it? Because like some people will define it, like my experience, which we'll talk about a little bit, is like all based in my core. So like a lot of people are like your core is part of your pelvic floor. It's from diaphragm to like the bottom of your pelvis. Or like some people include hips. But you've also mentioned feet. So like what do you kind of, is it a fluid definition?
I would say, right, if we're talking about like what is the pelvic floor, I do consider the pelvic floor, right, like the muscles at the bowl of your pelvis, right? There's three layers of it. We have superficial, middle, deep. There's tons of muscles involved in there, but it is basically the muscles that sling from your pubic bone to your tailbone, right? So those
Hmm.
to me would be considered your pelvic floor muscles and your pelvic floor. But, right, where we could change is like it does function in part of your core, right? Like it is a
Hmm.
core muscle. So while it does keep in urine and feces or lets it out, right? Like it also helps in balance. It helps keep us upright, right? It functions with the diaphragm in your back and your abdominal muscles and your glutes. So I guess I would label the pelvic floor as just those muscles, but it does work in a system, right? We're more than just our pelvis. Like it does work with the core system. So
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yep. Totally. So I'll share a little bit about my experience and my experience in talking with you. And I don't even think I circled back and told you this all the way, like how impactful and life changing it was. So we met at like a networking group. women and wellness group that I host in Saratoga. And I took the liberty of saying like, hey, will you look at my diastasis and just touch it? Tell me what you think. I just like laid down on the couch and you checked it for me. So graciously, thank you. And you said to me something that no one in this 6-year journey has said to me is that you can do crunches. And it blew my mind because I was like, I thought I can increase my intra-abdominal pressure. And you were like, you just stood up. That increased your intra-abdominal pressure. And it was really, 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 really empowering. And I could tell that one of the first therapists I saw was like pretty antiquated. And then like, I saw a bunch. But anyway, to back it up a little bit, diastasis recti is the separation of the abdominal muscles. Is it the transverse
Yeah. Yeah.
abdominal
I mean,
muscles?
it's like most of your abdominal muscles, right? They're all kind of
Okay.
connected to that linea alba right there in the
Yeah,
middle.
and it's like unavoidable in pregnancy because it has to grow so much, and then a lot of people it goes back down and can close on its own, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And you explained it to me as like not necessarily winning the collagen lottery, which I'll ask you to talk a little bit more about. So my experience was really rooted in my core, and I had this misconception for a really long time, despite seeing qualified providers, like 5+ qualified providers. Um, and we can talk more about the abs and all of that, but like, tell me a little bit about that. What is your like what do you kind of wish everyone knew about your abdominal muscles? Maybe even not even related to pregnancy.
I guess one diastasis, everyone, well, first of all, we don't have baselines of anything, right? No one has checked your
Mm,
diastasis before you even had a baby, right? So you don't even
true.
know what your diastasis was before because everyone has a linea alba, which is where that diastasis forms. And we
Hmm.
consider 2 fingers totally normal, right? 2 fingers are normal. Um, so first of all, like that's just it, right? If someone says you have a 2 finger diastasis, you could have had a 2 finger diastasis before you had the baby. That's just fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
When we talk about diastasis, I look at more as to how the abdomen is functioning as a whole, right? We want to check each of the abdominal muscles and see maybe if some are firing or some not firing as much. But if you're getting up, if you're standing, if you're picking up your kids, like your abdomen is great. Like you're doing pretty good. There are some tweaks we can make. And I also just think abdominal pressure is not the demon, right? We know way more than a crunch. A cough and sneeze create some of the biggest abdominal pressures you can do throughout your day, right? So,
Hmm.
like, and then sit to stand is right up there too, right? Those are some of the 3 biggest things that create abdominal pressure throughout your day. So,
Hmm.
getting on the floor and doing a crunch,
Yeah.
really not going to. And picking up your kid, right? Like, all of this is creating abdominal pressure. Abdominal pressure is
Hmm.
fine unless you're having a problem managing it and you're having symptoms when you're doing a particular activity, right? Like, but we all create abdominal pressure all the time, right?
Hmm.
So I just think we've created abdominal pressure as this demon, which it's really not. It's
Yeah.
only a demon if we're really using that as our primary strategy and we don't have other strategies. Then we need to figure out what's going on, right? But yes, and then also like collagen is not something genetically we have control of, right? I did not win the collagen
Mm.
lottery. I did not.
Yeah.
My collagen is not great. I have a slight diastasis and but it's fine. I can contract my core. It's okay. I have some slight prolapse, but I'm fine, right? Like I know these things. I know my collagen isn't great. And now it's about what to do when that's the case, right? But we
Hmm.
can still
Hmm.
create a very functional person even with those things. And it is not
Yeah.
the end all be all.
Yeah, I think that's really like so refreshing. I think a lot of us like get sucked into like optimization after having a baby or like getting back to our baseline and we don't even know the baseline. I think that's really important. Um, and this is something I like to get the take from this is why I have so many providers come on and have conversations for my audience because everyone has a slightly different take. So we're definitely going to get into constipation, but as far as collagen supplementation, what are your takes? Do you recommend it to people? Do you like there's
So,
all kinds of versions.
yeah, I mean, I will say I don't recommend a ton of supplement. Like, I always have to give the disclaimer you have to talk to your doctor first. I can't recommend any supplements, right? Like, that
Right,
is
right.
always
Yeah.
my disclaimer. In regards to collagen, I think if someone wants to take it, great. I would say, as far as I'm aware, I'm not super up to date on the research. The research last I knew was kind of mixed as to whether it
Mhm.
does anything or doesn't in regards to that. So, I mean, I think it's just, again, like depending on the person, I don't think it's going to make or break anything, right? Do I think it like taking a collagen supplement, especially for diastasis or prolapse, is going to like fix things? No, no.
Right.
But it might support it, right? It might help
Hmm.
a little bit. And if that's something that that person wants to do, then great.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. From the dietitian perspective, it's like very individualized. Like some people will report like a massive improvement in like their skin and nails and their hair. And I'm like, okay, great. Your body is synthesizing what we're giving it. But as far as
Hmm.
like a protein replacement, like it's not a complete amino acid profile and,
Yeah,
things like that. So yeah, there's like all these different perspectives. But I think you're right. Like, and this is kind of a true statement, like no one supplement fixes everything and no one muscle group exists in a silo. And
yes.
all those things are true. So back to it depends.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Which I celebrate that. I mean, in
Oh,
the
that's
same way
good.
that we've lost nuance, we've lost critical thinking.
I
We
know.
are we are, a little bit in the minority of like really thinking critically for our patients, which is I think why we work for ourselves.
Yes, that's
Is,
fair.
one of the many reasons. Okay. So, my experience with like the only reason my pelvic floor came into my stratosphere and get I was a healthcare provider. I've been a dietitian for like a very long time before I had my kids. I thought I knew what I was talking about. I was at least adjacent to these things. I had a doula, I had a midwife, like I
Mhm.
didn't even know any of this. I had debilitating back pain. I couldn't lay flat on the floor. I like couldn't function. I really really could not function, but I had my child in March 2020, and so I could not seek care
Right.
basically. Like even if I had begged, which I didn't, which I couldn't,
Hmm.
they wouldn't.
Right.
We all remember those days. Um, but my cat stepped on my belly button, and it felt like a weird hole, and I was like, that feels weird. And the back pain was a big one. And I got on the Peloton like 3 months postpartum. And I think that made it significantly worse. And then I just like had these habits that I didn't realize were hurting. And it just like led to this whole cascade of events. So my question is about referred pain. I didn't
Hmm.
actually experience like prolapse or leaking or any incontinence or anything, but I had absolutely debilitating pain. And it took me forever to get it connected to my pelvic floor and hip weakness. And I still don't know what level the diastasis played in it because it was at one point like 3 fingers and like over a knuckle deep. And now it's like two and not. And I can contract it and I can control it and it's functionally closed. So I'm not really sure. But let's talk about referred pain because we've already
Hmm.
talked about other parts of the body. How often, you mentioned that there's usually another muscular and another ortho issue going on. And then the pelvic floor is kind of almost like, is this correct to say like almost this last line of defense?
Yeah, that's how I feel, right? I feel like the pelvic floor is like the little guy who just wants to carry it all, right? Like it
Yeah.
just wants to do everything, right? Like
Yeah.
it has a lot of jobs, right? Being at the base of the pelvis, it has a lot of jobs. I mean, it is
Yeah.
primarily keeping in bowel and bladder function, right? But it also is a balance muscle, right? It is functioning to keep our pelvis level during balance and keep things, a little bit more stable during balance. It's functioning as a core muscle, right? And then it also helps protect our spine from like ground reaction forces. So, like every time your foot
Yeah.
strikes, right? Like ground reaction forces, right? Equal and opposite reaction and all that good stuff. It goes up, and
Hmm.
the pelvic floor has to disperse that a little bit before it hits your spine, right? And so it has a lot of jobs to do. So it can't necessarily do them all at the same time, right? So
Yeah.
um, if it has to do one job really, really like a lot more than another, then it's going to lose something somewhere. And honestly, if we're talking
Yeah.
about like protecting your spine from ground
Right.
reaction forces, that's a pretty high priority task. So you might pee yourself a little bit, right? If it has to do something else. But
Hmm.
that's like right where the whole like system approach comes in, right? Because if the pelvic floor is, let's just say, for instance, if it's tense and tight, right? And it's really guarding and it's trying to work really, really hard, then that is going to cause pain. And because it connects to your tailbone basically in your sacrum and that whole low back area, and all those back muscles come down, right? And they connect down there too. It can easily, right, send pain up your spine. Or because
Yeah.
all of the nerves that innervate your pelvic floor come from the low back, right? Like if any one of those nerves are being irritated or something, right, that can also be either back or pelvic floor pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, um, I mean, the back and the hips, like we have new research that shows 9 out of 10 people with low back pain have an associated pelvic floor dysfunction,
I
right? They're
believe
just
that.
so closely related. You can't separate them, right? Like you,
Mm-hmm.
and when one isn't functioning the best, another one picks up the slack. So whichever way, right? Even if we say the pelvic floor might be weak, maybe the low back is working overtime because the pelvic floor is not helping out, or vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, unfortunately, right? Like we have all these backup plans, right? Like we have the backup plans. Like if the back doesn't work, the pelvic floor can pick up the slack or the core, but eventually we're going to run out of options when we
Yeah.
don't. And that's when the pain is usually going to start.
Yeah. And patients might hear this called like compensation or things like that too, right?
Yeah.
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 Right. Because another thing I like to know when I'm doing an evaluation on someone is which is kind of annoying, but I want to know every past injury you've ever had in your entire life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
from that rolling the ankle when you were like 7 years old, right? Because you change your movement pattern after every injury.
Yeah.
And you only have so many movement patterns that your body can adapt to before we run out,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where I think that underlying orthopedic part comes in, right? If you sprained your ankle and you offloaded that ankle and then you hurt your knee and then you offloaded the knee, and we've been, just doing all of these crazy compensation patterns, then what is happening at the pelvis and how much has it had to compensate for during all of those?
Right. Right. How often do is it almost always there's another ortho component, and how do you kind of figure that out? Do you utilize x-rays?
I the only time I don't really utilize X, so I have a love-hate relationship with imaging. Um,
Say more.
I think imaging can be great, especially an X-ray if we think a bone is broken, right?
Right,
Sure.
right, right.
But if we talk about MRIs or CT scans, right? We know, especially I'm 37, I probably have some bulging discs in my back. I don't have back pain, right?
Mm,
So we know that there's actually no association with what you find on an image with the back, with the pain that you are experiencing. So just because you find a bulging disc does not mean that that's the source of the pain. Now,
mm,
unless we find that that bulging disc is actually so far bulging that it's pushing on a nerve root and you're getting ridiculous symptoms down your leg or something, right? Like that is different. But there's just no correlation between what's found on an image and what's someone's associated back pain, right? They've done all of these studies that show people with like five bulging discs have no pain. Someone with one has excruciating pain. It's just, it doesn't correlate. So I will see what the image says, but I'm not going to let that dictate my plan of care.
cool. Yeah, that's a very fascinating take. I haven't gotten too into that. And I don't have a lot of clients who have done all of I don't even know what to call it, like where you go to Turkey and
Oh,
get all of that crazy. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm intrigued. I am
yeah.
intrigued, and I may do it on myself at some point. But like you go get all that like preventative scans. Like I think, and if you break it down and you go through the list of everything they do, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they get into like a much more granular version of like your lipid profile, for example, which I think could be really helpful because the size of certain lipoproteins in our cholesterol says a lot about how things might progress. Like that could be valuable information. But on the other side, I think let's say there's 15 things you're getting done. Some of them, and a lot of critics argue, is like exactly what you're saying. It's not going to correlate with anything you're actually feeling or experiencing and might not help us at all, might only distract from any actual problems. That's
Well, and
really
then
interesting.
too, you have someone who has no pain. They get an image and they see that they have bulging discs, and then they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, there's something wrong with my back," right? And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you're
Yeah.
creating this like
Yeah.
not great cycle.
Yeah, so true. We have to be so careful with the data we collect and make sure that
Yes.
that we're actually going to use it
Hmm.
and and it's actually helpful. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. That is really, really fascinating. Okay, let's talk about constipation.
Okay.
If you could, I mean, there's like we could have like five providers. It's just like any one problem. Every provider has a different approach on it, right? So like
Hmm.
we could have a bunch of different providers here, and everyone would have a different approach and a different thought. But I guess maybe we'll start with like what percentage of your clients or people that come in or people that talk to you or whatever have issues going poop?
It's so funny. I feel like in the medical world, right, you have the everyone's constipated until proven otherwise.
Oh, wow. I actually have not heard that. That is so fascinating.
I think, especially in our country, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
constipation is huge. And I'll have so many people who will be like, well, I have diarrhea, so I'm not constipated. And I'm like,
Right.
that could actually be a sign that you're hugely
Yeah.
constipated. And so
Yeah.
this is one time I will utilize x rays, right? If I
Mm.
truly believe someone's constipated and they don't think they're constipated, I'll be like, maybe we should get you a flat plate x ray and just take a look, right? And
Yeah.
see, and you can see how backed up they are on an x ray.
Wow.
Um, and then, yeah, so that would be like the one time where I really do like imaging, right? But in general, yes, I go by like everyone probably has some form of constipation. We just don't get
And
enough
do
eyewear
most of them
every
complain about it? Like, do people come, like, what
day. I think
percentage are coming to you kind of for the constipation as a primary
n-
complaint?
not many
It's always
until we
secondary.
start talking about it, right? And still, I'm like, are you
Mm.
straining when you go to the bathroom? How often are you going to the bathroom, right? Like, until we
Yeah.
start talking about it, do they be like, oh, I didn't know that I shouldn't strain to go to the bathroom, right? Like all of those things. Um,
Hmm.
they start realizing that maybe there is an issue.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's
I
really,
pretty
really
much
interesting.
treat everyone like they have some
Yeah.
form of constipation. And we always
Yeah.
talk about bowels, right? We always go through the Bristol
Hmm.
stool chart. What's your stool
Hmm.
look like? Ask all of those questions. And then, because like we talked about before with urinary urgency, right? Like that's my first thing is clear constipation first and then see what we have.
Yeah. Because the constipation could be causing, like you said, the urinary issues and other issues too.
Correct. It can cause back pain
Or
too.
masking. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can cause pain with intercourse, right? If you have a lot of stool in your rectum, right? I mean, it's right there. It can cause all sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think our guts are just like such a mess and it's very curious as and I don't I don't know if there's a way to really get an answer. Like obviously our food system plays a huge role. Our modern lifestyles play a huge role. But
mhm,
like now we know so much and now we can look for it and now it's not taboo to talk about.
correct.
So it's like, has there's always been a little bit of an issue, what's actually normal? And that's, it just depends on the person. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I would love if more people would come for constipation, right? Because I don't even think, like, I just actually had someone the other day, right? And they've been to like every GI doctor under the sun and they just been prescribed Miralax and Metamucil, right? Take a daily dose of Miralax and Metamucil and you'll be fine. And they're like, but I don't want
right,
to do that, right? And again, if
right.
someone wants to do that, then okay. If you're okay with doing that, fine. But if that's not something you want to do, then like it could be a pelvic floor issue, right? If your pelvic floor is
Hmm.
really, really tight and then it's hard to get stool out, right? If it can't relax, it
Yeah.
has to relax to get stool out. So if
Hmm.
it can't do that, then it's going to be hard and you're going to be straining and you're going to not have a good time and it's going to be painful.
Hmm. Yeah. I have a case study I should send you actually,
Oh, really?
of someone who has tried like everything and that's all. I guess that's all I'll say. If you're interested, I'll send it to you. But for privacy reasons and stuff,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. Like it does not make sense on paper. And they've
Interesting.
like tried and done everything right and tried so much. So yeah, I'll send it to you if you wouldn't
I
mind
would love
taking a
that.
look at it. Yeah,
Have they tried
it's
pelvic floor therapy?
yes.
Mm, that's unfortunate.
Like they've exhausted so much. But yeah, I mean there's a lot of people out there like that and that's, hopefully this reaches, some of the right people and people can just ask really good questions. I want to do something kind of fun around like friend or foe. So you
Okay.
can say if it's a pelvic floor friend, foe, or it depends.
Got
Because
it.
some of these might be a little bit more straightforward and some of them might not be. And I'm just
Okay.
going to kind of make these up on the fly because these are going to be based around the things that I've either absorbed as misconceptions or encountered, or maybe like there's a lot that I'm not even totally sure of.
Okay.
Um, and maybe this will just like some of these are going to feel really like basic and easy. Anyways, all right, let's do friend or foe. Okay.
Okay.
Um, a high fiber diet.
How high fiber? I mean, I love high fiber diets.
Okay,
How
adequate fiber diet.
adequate fiber is great.
Okay, okay, so that's a friend. Adequate water intake.
Friend.
These are all supportive to your pelvic floor. Like they're going to
Yeah.
help things move appropriately and all of
And
that.
and yes, friend with the water intake. But I always say the disclaimer again, we have no good research on how much water people actually
Right,
need. Like we say half your
right.
body weight in ounces, but that actually has no research behind it, right? So if you're drinking when you're thirsty, perfect.
Yeah, yeah. The way that I assess it for people is like if they, depending on the person, we talk about the color of their urine. If they're on
Hmm.
supplements that or medications that change the color of their urine, then we go back to like how do you feel? How's your digestion? How are these
Right.
other things? Like every person it needs to be kind of individualized.
Great.
How about Pilates?
Oh, I would say friend. I
Yeah.
I am pro any and all movement.
Hmm. Okay. Running.
Friend.
Hmm. So I should try running again. I've been scared. I've been really
Oh,
scared.
I am, if any, honestly, this is going to be any movement you list, I'm going to say friend because I would rather have you move than not move,
Yeah.
right? Like if you like running, then I think you should run. I mean, I'd love to see how you run and check your gait analysis and see
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
is, but I would rather you run than not or do
Hmm.
Pilates than do nothing, right? Like
And
movement's
if you
better
have
than
pain, go see somebody.
correct. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Um, how about okay, so I'm not gonna say weightlifting. That helped me a lot. That like
Oh,
changed
I
my
love.
body. That helped my whole body get back online, get back on board, and get me to like a pain-free life that I had not known for years.
And now I'm going to say that's my that's my bias is that to me
Hmm.
weightlifting is number one and heavy
Yeah.
weightlifting, right? Not just like
Hmm.
5 pound weights.
Yep.
Heavy weightlifting is my number one.
Including deadlift.
I love deadlifts. Oh, I teach everyone deadlifts.
Hmm.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um, so my next one is gonna be like diaphragmatic breathing,
oh,
which is
friend.
massive. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think this one is kind of underappreciated, under talked about?
I think it's often. I think we're starting to talk about it a little bit more. I think it does fly under the radar a little bit, but I also think people when we talk about diaphragmatic breathing, I actually think people don't know what it is. Like I actually think people do it actually not great, right? And a lot of
Mm.
people are actually like we're taking a big breath and we're doing this big inhale and moving our shoulders and we're not actually using our diaphragm.
Mm. How can someone, if someone's listening to this, how could they know if they're using their diaphragm?
So I usually like to do like the rib cage check, right? Because your diaphragm's like tucked right up under your rib
Hmm.
cage, right? So when we inhale, it comes down and it flattens. So it does expand laterally and it expands in the front and in the back, right? So
Hmm.
so I like to put like your hands on your rib cage, right? Like and then
Okay.
like take a deep breath. And when you take a deep breath, does that rib cage come out into your hands?
Yeah, a little bit.
So that's where I'd want to see the like the most movement, but I'd also want like a 360-degree breath, or we call it 360-degree or umbrella breathing, right? It's like you're opening an umbrella, right? So we're getting some belly, we're getting some lateral rib cage, and we're getting some back expansion. And we're getting all
Hmm.
of it pretty equally. But I feel like a lot of people will actually just do belly breathing, which for some people is fine. But for other people, you can actually breathe into your belly and not use your diaphragm at all.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think you just like again, it depends on the person and how they do it,
Yeah.
right? But I think checking the rib cage and how the rib cage is moving because the diaphragm is under there right? Your rib cage has to move. So that would be where I would
Mm-hmm.
start.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a really good one. That's one anybody could use as soon as today. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Um, what do you think about those barefoot shoes and how they relate to the pelvic floor? Because we now have like these sneakers like this, and I have a very cursory understanding, and I've asked my Pilates teacher and my personal trainer and all like a couple other people about this. And my personal trainer is really big into barefoot um lifting.
Hmm.
So anyway, tell me about like because we talked about feet a little bit. Tell me about like the barefoot shoes and the really padded shoes and their different uses and how they affect pelvic floor.
So it depends. Um, I do like barefoot. When people come into me, I always have them take off their socks and shoes. We're assessing what their feet are doing. When we're doing exercises, we're doing it barefoot so I can see what their feet are doing. Right? Are you
Hmm.
squeezing your toes? Is your arch collapsing? Do you have no arch collapse? Right? I'm checking all of that. So I do love things barefoot. That being said, there are some people who are going to need more support. But I usually look at an orthotic or supportive shoes or something as a temporary fix, right? Again, something's not working right in your foot. And in order for you to need that amount of support. And can we actually
Mm.
just provide more support and strengthening to your foot in order for your foot's natural arch to be able to support it versus an orthotic, right? So I think orthotics
Mm.
are a good and big shoes are good temporary. But then I would like you to be able to not have to have something like that.
Mm. So you're seeing them a little bit as like a necessary band-aid for some people, but that
Yeah,
ultimately the goal could be to be free of those.
right. Right. Like if someone came
Hmm.
in with crippling plantar fasciitis, right? Like
Right.
we're going
Yeah.
to provide you some support, but then we're going to
Yeah.
work on your foot with the goal to get you out of that support, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah. I would say they've become like a lifelong thing, which I wish
Yeah.
it was just more of a temporary band-aid that we then took off.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Do you treat a lot of patients who are taking GLP-1s?
I haven't had a ton, but I have had some. Um, and unfortunately, right, we're dealing with constipation a
Yeah.
ton with GLP
Major
ones.
gut motility.
Yes, and so it gets really tricky. Um,
Hmm.
and for them, they might need some support with that, right? Like if you just have, it's just slowing your gut motility, right? Like,
Yeah.
but yes, it's starting to become more of a thing. One thing I'm actually excited about with GLP ones though is the microdosing of GLP ones, um, which isn't for weight loss, but it is showing some really great improvements for people with bowel disease and endometriosis and pelvic pain and
Hmm.
things like that because it's pretty anti-inflammatory.
Right.
So I'm excited for that. But when they're on the full dose for weight loss, it is hard because of the constipation.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And it has to be like a multi-pronged approach because I do see a lot of patients on GLP-1s and,
Mhm.
oftentimes we're just trying to get digestive health in a better place.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's really hard to know sometimes because I think like we kind of talked about the pelvic floor being like a threshold basis where it's like it takes
Hmm.
all these assaults and you don't even know there's a problem until all of a sudden, boom, there's a big problem. And I'm finding it kind of difficult to know when to refer out to pelvic floor when they're on the medication and maybe their plan is to come, like some people's plan is to come off of it once they reach their goal weight to maintain. Some is to stay on it forever. The folks who are planning on staying on it forever and know that, it's like, okay, let's get pelvic floor on board now. Those who
Yeah.
are like, well, I think I'm going to come off of it and I'm kind of averse to this or trying these things. So that's a little bit of an issue that I'm trying to figure out right now. So keep me updated as you,
I think the
and I'll
biggest
keep you
thing
updated too. It's tough.
I think the biggest thing on that would be like education, right? Depending on if they had issues before GLP-1s with constipation or not,
Yeah.
right? But like the biggest thing I do for bowels, right? Like one of the biggest things is there's so much education, right? On
Hmm.
like, please don't strain, please don't sit on the toilet for
Yeah.
too long. Can we try to create a routine for you, right? Because if there's one thing bowels love, it's consistency, right? So,
Mm.
um, that is honestly a huge part of what we do is like education in order to get the pelvic floor and the bowels to function better.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That made me think of another one to ask
Okay.
you about as far as friend and foe go. First, I'm going to do coffee.
Oh,
This is like a really good one, I think.
I think friend.
Okay.
I
But it also is a known bladder irritant.
no.
You say no.
For for certain people, yes.
Hmm.
But we
Hmm.
don't actually, so the way bladder irritants became a
Mm.
thing is they sent around a questionnaire to doctors and said, what are the most irritating things for your patients? And they wrote back, they said these are the most irritating things. And then we get your list of bladder irritants. These all irritate your bladder. There's no
Is
science.
that literally where that came from?
Yes, there's no science. There's no nothing. There's
This is insane.
so my thing is right, like where I would refer to a nutritionist. Maybe we need to get you on
Hmm.
a elimination diet to figure out what is your irritant because there is no one irritant for everybody. And like
Yeah.
for coffee, if you're having bowel issues, it helps you go to the bathroom. Great, right? Like
Right.
have a cup of coffee. And if it creates urinary urgency in the morning, if you love your cup of coffee, then just know like it actually creates
Yeah.
urinary urgency for me in the morning, and I'm just going to have to be closer to a toilet. But don't take away your cup of coffee. Like maybe if you don't have a pot, so then you're peeing all
Right.
day.
Right. Right.
Um, but no, I think coffee is fine.
That's cool. I really like that. I did not know that. Like I was just taught it in school that these
Hmm.
things are bladder irritants.
Hmm.
And when you're taught it at an instant, like I feel like my mind is blown right now. Like I got to look more into this and I'm going to link some stuff in the show notes because like honestly, that's a little bit, we should be, it's almost like making me want to go down this rabbit hole of like questioning every single thing that's like in our textbooks.
Well, I mean that's like the
Because
water
that was
thing
in my
too,
textbook. Like it's
right?
in the
Like,
textbooks.
but like I didn't realize that the 8 ounces of or the 8 cups of water
Right.
a day
Yeah.
or whatever also has no
Yeah.
research behind it.
I did know
Like
that one. Yeah.
things just become standard,
Mm-hmm.
even though there's
Mm-hmm.
not actually, yeah. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, if someone thinks like it's all about your own personal irritants, right? What is
Yes.
irritating you? We don't have a list of bladder irritants that affect people.
Mm. Yeah. So I guess it's actually more akin to gut. Like the thing
Everything,
that,
yeah,
so like that's very clear to me, right? Like I would never say this is a gut irritant for everyone, but I
correct.
was kind of under the impression that it can be a bladder irritant. So like if your bladder's really irritated, you might not want to drink it. But that
Yeah,
might not necessarily be true.
correct.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Okay, so the other one I want to ask about for friend or foe is bidets.
Oh, friend, I love bidets.
Bidets, period. But then bidets as enemas.
As enemas,
I didn't know this was a thing.
I didn't either.
I wish I didn't. I learned that this is a thing,
Okay.
and I'm shook.
I mean, I am not a huge fan of enemas unless it's needed, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are particular things that I'm more okay, like enemas, laxatives, unless it's like real, like you're constipated or what you need it for some reason, sure. But I don't think you should rely on anything like that to go to the bathroom, right?
Hmm.
Anything that's going to create a dependence, which they can,
Hmm.
it's not my favorite, right? That's
Hmm.
the thing with
Hmm.
laxatives too, right? It actually stimulates your bowels, right? So then your bowels don't actually have to work because they're getting
Yeah.
stimulated.
Yeah.
Um, an enema, yeah, no, I like bidets, but not for an enema.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was like really shook, and I'm really glad I remembered to ask you about that because I was like, that's not good. That should stop immediately. And
Yes,
and now I'm questioning, like, was I right about that because of the dependency thing? But it sounds like the
yes,
dependency thing is real. Like, you can develop I knew about the laxatives, but like, as far as and it logically made sense. And I feel like now I'm questioning everything I know about suppositories and the world. But so it's true. You can develop these dependents. And it sounds like full circle, if this is correct, your bowels are, those muscles around all of that need to be
Mhm.
worked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if
Like,
we don't have peristalsis with the bowels, right?
yeah,
Like if they're not able to do that, I mean, either you've created that dependence or we need to figure out why, right? Like I guess that's the ultimate thing, right? Like if you're giving yourself
yes,
enemas all the time, we need to figure out why is this happening, right? Like,
yes,
and figure
yes.
out an actual solution.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I have a client who started with me and had loose stool for like literally like almost 20 years. And now when we play around with different like soluble and insoluble fiber and we're switching things up in the diet and we're working on a whole slew of things, then there will be like a forcing needed or the stool gets too hard like way too quick just from a little bit of fiber and things like that.
Mhm.
And that's like all related to the muscles being totally out of practice
Yeah. And I will
around
say too,
proper.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, fiber is so tricky because I love fiber.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But some people, especially if they have IBS, right, like just have a
Mhm.
really hard time tolerating fiber. Um,
Mm.
and the slower we increase, the better. But yeah, some
Hmm.
people with
Yeah.
IBS especially have, and that makes it even trickier, right? If they do have that in fiber, it's just really hard for their system to tolerate.
Yeah. Let me add my take on IBS real quick because I don't want anyone listening to this to not know this, and you can disagree if you want. But I really practice under the assumption that, and I think a lot of dietitians do, hopefully, IBS is just a band-aid diagnosis that providers slap on any and all gut issues. It's not actually the cause of anything. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I would say right, yeah, right. Whether you have IBS C or D, right? Like they're just thinking you have constipation or diarrhea, and it could be due to like at least somewhat stress related, and that's all they know.
right, right. And then
Right.
they're just like, you have IBS, like just go figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's like
it's
one thing like
maddening.
you can work on, right? Pelvic floor related because your pelvic floor is connected to your stress. Um
Yeah.
and yeah, and nutrition
Hmm.
wise, right? If you get a good combination of that, you can definitely make it better.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, amazing. So I want to ask you two last questions. Obviously, a lot of my work centers around like long-term health and longevity and like functioning. It's not about living to 110 and, it's about like having good quality in your years. So this might be pretty obvious, but I would love to hear you kind of articulate it for everybody. What's the role of our pelvic floor health in our overall longevity?
Oh, well, I mean, incontinence is the number one reason people go into nursing homes, right? So, I mean, if you want
Which
to
I did
stay
not
on,
know. I
yeah.
heard you say that in previous conversations, and I was like really surprised to hear that. I did not know that.
And then 50% of women stop exercising because of a pelvic floor condition, right? So,
It's
I mean, you're
awful.
just setting yourself, right? If 50% of women are stopping exercise because they're leaking or have a pelvic pain or an issue,
Yeah,
I mean, right, we're decreasing muscle strength, we're decreasing bone strength, we're decreasing cardiovascular fitness, we're increasing our risk of
yeah,
osteoporosis, right? Which all is not helpful
yeah,
for longevity. We
right.
know that for women especially, we start losing muscle strength after the age of 30, right? Men get to wait till like 50 or something until they start losing muscle strength. But for women, like once 30 hits, every year you're decreasing muscle strength. And that also means pelvic floor and your urethral sphincter and your anal sphincter, right? All of those to keep things in, they are also losing strength. Um,
Crazy.
so we need to exercise, right? And then, yeah, and then again, incontinence can lead to falls in the elderly, right? Because
Yeah,
they're rushing to get to the bathroom or they're leaking on the way to the bathroom and then they fall and break a hip. And then if you stopped exercising, you have osteoporosis, right? It's just like all
yeah,
of these
yeah.
things, right? And if we just could have stopped the it sooner, like how much better would that have been,
Hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the sooner you fix something, the better off you'll be, right? Like we don't want to wait until you're 80 and you're fully leaking before you start to seek help.
That's
But
gonna be our matching tattoo we get on our foreheads. The sooner you fix it, the better.
yes, that would be great. If people would just realize that even though
Yeah.
you're leaking right now with just a laugh or a sneeze, what's going to
Uh,
happen in 40 years? Like, how much will
yeah.
you be leaking
Doesn't
then?
get better. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
right? And let's keep you out of a nursing home. Let's keep you off the
my God, yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
Um, right? And all of that starting now can be so helpful longevity wise.
Yeah, such a direct tie-in. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for putting it that way. Okay, final question. This is what I like to ask every guest at the very end, and we like perfectly teed this up and segued into it. What do you want to be doing when you're 80 years old?
Oh, goodness. I hope that I am still rock climbing and
I hope
hiking,
you are.
hiking in the Adirondacks. Mountain biking might be a little tricky. That one might not be the
Hey,
best.
put on your helmet, you'll be fine.
I hope that I am still out there
Yeah.
doing all of that stuff for as long as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's great. Yeah, you just a lot of people want to just be doing what they're doing and they just want to be doing it well. And I think that's
Yeah.
literally living and breathing longevity concepts. Like that's all anybody really wants. So
Hmm.
it's amazing.
So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. So
Thank
tell
you.
everybody where they can find you if they want to follow you on socials, and I'll also put everything in the show notes. And if anybody local wants to find you, I'll link your website as well.
Oh, perfect. Yep. So it's Poppy Physical Therapy. That's just what it is on Instagram and Facebook, just Poppy Physical
Perfect.
Therapy. And yeah, I'm located right in Saratoga.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Emily. I will be in touch. And thanks everybody for tuning in today. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.